regular legislative session agenda meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present. Commissioner French is online, and the other 4 are here in the chambers. Let's see. We have received written testimony that we've all received for item 3A on today's agenda, so I just want to make a note of that we did that. And then we will start with our open public forum. We have, I'm going to say 2 groups wanting to testify. I have 1, 2, 3 people. I need to make sure that everyone's here, as 2 have yielded their time. So Kevin Van Hook, thank you, and Tim Malik, okay. And you've yielded your time as well to Lindsay, okay. And then we have Lindsay Sophos, if you want to come up and state your name and address for the record, and then they've yielded their time to you, so you have 9 minutes.
Thanks. My name is Lindsay Sophos. I'm here because my address formerly was 6815 East Trent Avenue in Spokane Valley. Commissioners, over the last many months, I have watched with admiration and pride as your community has advocated for Spokane County's animals, to keep Spokane County no-kill. And it has been a privilege to support their efforts in the most modest of ways. Indeed, I have shied away from standing at the front lines of their efforts, not least because of my previous role as director of scraps. I didn't want any perceived conflict of interest or suspected egoism to detract from their advocacy. But then I bore witness to your highest executives, Spokane County CEO Scott Simmons' testimony before the Spokane City Council last Wednesday. I watched him take up the misguided and morally bankrupt tactics of Kat Nichols. And he didn't read from a script almost certainly written by her. This time, he threw down himself. I watched Scott lie to and disrespect the very community he is charged with serving.
So just a second, I'm going to make a point of it, or I'm going to talk to our attorney. That's allegations that are being made, and so I just want to make sure if she can continue or if we need to not have allegations.
That does violate the rules of conduct as published by the board.
But he can make allegations against me during the time that I was an employee for you. And that stands, but I can't come and refute it.
So I'm going to check with our attorney on making sure that I'm following the rules.
The rules of conduct for this forum are published on the board or on the wall right behind you there.
Okay. When I announced my resignation, Kat Nichols, who had toured Scraps and visited regularly during the preceding months as we forged a working relationship, wrote me an email stating, "Words cannot express the value and blessing that you have brought to Scraps and Spokane County through your passionate, faithful service to our people and pet communities. It has been a joy getting to know you. We are sad to lose you." This is a matter of public record, and this the county would have the public believe was written to me after I failed in my duties. The most egregious accusations leveled should have been directed inward, because previous and current staff are clear that what was described occurred during the months Kat Nichols self-appointed herself interim director, after my departure, and before Jess Ferrari's onboarding. Let me be clear. Whatever Jess Ferrari walked into, as they like to put it, was a reflection on Kat's and it appears Scott's leadership, not mine. Yes, I often hosted animals who were challenging to handle for staff and requiring of specialized care in my office. Yes, I converted the previous director's large office with a window into a ward for sick cats who had previously been housed in a small, concrete, windowless room. And yes, my team and I used vacant office spaces as temporary retrofitted housing units for animals in need. It worked, and not only that, it worked well, which is why there are so many people fighting for what was. Animals weren't crammed everywhere, as was alleged, nor were dogs running freely around the shelter. Other than dogs being offered a reprieve from the stressful kennels for a few hours at a time by staff, the dogs in offices were those belonging to Sarah Garner, Ashley Prosek, and Beth O'Keefe, staff members who brought and two of whom continue to bring their personal dogs to work with them. Yes, animal shelters draw mice, as Scraps has since before my time. I had discussed with the county shoring up the shelter and investing in more secure food storage, but the county declined. Indeed, the Rubbermaid bins Cat Nichols set up for food storage were poo-pooed by facilities when discussed with me because mice can chew through plastic. We would need expensive stainless steel, I was told. When a staff member advised Kat of this, Kat disagreed based on her experience of mice not having shown interest in the Christmas ornaments stored in plastic tubs in her garage. Instead of investment in substantive change, the county opted to continue relying on kill traps. And I'm not surprised to hear that it still isn't working. Because as I tried to explain then, killing the mice is not addressing the core problem. Killing, I wish you would learn, is neither a valid, effective, nor ethical solution to a complex matter at the intersection of different lives. Yes, I disallowed Scraps from transferring legal guardianship of animals to local rescues known not to be in compliance with Spokane County's kennel license requirements. And I understand from current staff that the bridges being bragged about being rebuilt with transfer partners include these same, still unlicensed kennels. In stark contrast to the accusations made, we did work with both local and non-local rescues, including Spokanimal and Spokane Humane, who were included among over 20 transfer partners we collaborated with in 2021 alone. During the last full year of my tenure, and during the particularly challenging pandemic and post-pandemic periods, during which we transferred out approximately 700 animals. By end of April 2022, right before my departure, we had already transferred out over 200 animals for the year, including some to Spokanimal and Spokane Humane. You best check the numbers yourself and not rely on what's told to you by those in urgent need of self-preservation. The remainder of the accusations against me conflate my tenure with that of Kat Nichols. Indeed, she was the director prior to Jess Ferrari. It is my understanding from former and current staff, as well as public records, that operations struggled significantly during this multi-month period, which included the shelter's busiest months in terms of intake. And the staff felt entirely unsupported, and that both animal care and facility maintenance suffered as a result. I can't speak directly to what was done or not done because I wasn't there, but I can tell you that at no time during my tenure did the smell of ammonia overwhelm in the conference room, even though the county opted for an open-air, half-wall, 70-kennel cat room that shares airspace with the conference room. I can tell you that several days before my departure, an animal protection officer and I performed a cremation, leaving the working freezer the resting place for only a handful of deceased beings who are still on hold per enforcement. I can tell you that when I was brought on board by Nancy Hill, I was advised that Scraps is the regional animal shelter and is charged with providing refuge to all stray, abandoned, and abused domestic animals in Spokane County. My team honored this charge, though the geese specifically referenced before the council arrived after I left. As an aside, I have been told that a bird seized by officers was taken home by Kat Nichols, and Jess Ferrari offered to put his name on the adoption paperwork for her. This is a matter of public record, and as well as disturbingly a matter of falsifying a public record. Finally, I can say that I have learned that humans who do not have a genuine care for animals most often do not have a genuine care for humans either. Leadership proves this point. They refer to sentient beings failed by humans as the worst of the worst, and as representing nothing more than potential liability. They tell community members to abandon them on county streets. They manufacture reasons to kill them, and they do so without unease or regret, going so far as to claim that killing them is in their best interest, the ultimate betrayal. But they don't stop there. They lie about who these animals were, forcing upon them those abhorrent injustices in both life and in memory. And true to form, they don't display care for humans either. The staff they claim to be concerned about working in an animal shelter that smells like animals is in fear of leadership, suffering retaliation and surreptitious surveillance, and mourning the loss of not only their canine friends, but also any ethical framework guiding Scraps or other parts of the county, including human resources. The same can be said for the volunteers, many of whom have been fired for voicing their opinions, and others of whom are being denied basic access to information about shelter operations and animal care. The public they claim they want to keep safe is paying for a behavior assessment tool of the very kind proven scientifically and for years to not be predictive of future dog behavior, to not keep them safe. And they continue to force this same public to either do Scraps' work, personally take in at-risk animals, or abandon them on the streets. And the community members who made this county one of the most progressive jurisdictions in the country with regard to the provision of animal protection services find themselves barred from Scraps and slandered repeatedly by them. Leadership shows care only for their careers and politics and reducing their workload, about supporting the transformation of what once was a safe place for the community at large into a lockdown, top-down situs of dishonesty, regression, and death, both of animals and the human spirit. Leadership is responsible for this, and their desperate, contrived, defamatory attempts at deflecting responsibility and eschewing accountability don't change this. They only more clearly illuminate the character and open the county up to legal action.
Thank you.
I am no longer proud to have served under you.
Okay, I have 3 other people that 2 have yielded their time, so I'm going to make sure Kelly Harvey. Okay, and you're yielding that to Susan Legal. Okay, and then Brianna Franzen. Okay, and so Susan, you will have 6 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to me again. This is becoming a regular thing and it will continue. I want you to know that when I share with you, these comments are well researched and I have factual documentation for what I say. I'm not going around for sound bites or half-truths or trying to make anybody look good or bad. The truth is what matters. And what I share are not personal attacks, but are stating concerns about people in their roles and as employees of the county, including Scraps. There have been claims that Ferrari did not meet the job requirements for the director's position he was hired into. Simmons has stated this is not true. There have been claims that he still does not meet the criteria. Simmons insists he does. So let's start at the beginning. Ferrari was hired no later than mid-October 2022. The job description requirements in place at that time said, must be a resident of Spokane County within 6 months of hiring and remain a resident through the duration of the employment. Ferrari lives in Post Falls. His truck has an Idaho license plate. This is a problem. Possession of a valid Washington State driver's license at the time of hire and for the duration of employment. In Washington State, unless you are a foreigner, and that is the state's term, not mine, you can't get a Washington driver's license when you are not a resident. That's a problem. Commissioned by the Sheriff's Department within 6 months of employment and maintenance for the duration of employment. It's a potential another problem. The commission was obtained after the 6-month period on May 19th, 3 days after community members raised this as an issue on May 16th. To obtain a state of Washington Board of Pharmacy Legend drug certification within 6 months of hiring. We're researching this. We don't have the information yet. Potential problem. Successful passing of an integrity interview and thorough background interview by the Spokane County Sheriff. We have been unable to obtain any records on the integrity interview and suggest that the integrity interview should be a public record. Since public trust is based on honesty, truthfulness, integrity, and transparency, this is very important. It also directs the Scraps management team consisting of 5 divisions, one of which is shelter care and includes the animal custody and care. There are other responsibilities that we can talk about some other time, but let's talk about what the county did. So what do you do when the person you hire didn't meet, and doesn't meet the requirements? And Ferrari did not, and could not, or chose not to meet the requirements. So what do? Well, if you're the county, you simply change the official job description. So Ferrari would meet these. Is that the new job descriptions were revised August 1, 2023, after discussions and community concerns had been raised. What about the other applicants who did meet the qualifications, one of which was not even interviewed? They met the original ones, but that didn't matter. Is this right? Is this ethical? Ferrari and his supervisors and the county commissioners knew he did not meet the job requirements. He knew that his boss had violated her adoption agreement with Scraps, one under his enforcement responsibilities. How in the world could he have passed an ethics interview? It reminds me of a statement about a politician that the legislator was supporting. The statement said, "He's completely unqualified and inexperienced. He's an arrogant member of an arrogant family, and I'm going to be with him." I also want to state to the county commissioners and Mr. Simmons, there are many colleges that offer degrees in animal behavior and ethology, which is a subspecialty of zoology. I'm talking Cornell, University of Minnesota, Penn State University, University of Washington, University of Cal Davis, Florida State, and many more. If research had been done, that would not have been a misstatement and a misleading of the community. Simmons also stated multiple times that a handful of people were caring about what's going on with Scraps. I talked about this the last time, about the hundreds of people that have been responding. In a recent poll on Nextdoor, 8% that asked if people felt Scraps leadership was doing a good job, 8% of the respondents said, yes, we feel they're doing a good job. 11% felt that they were doing a bad job. 82% felt that they should be fired. That's 101%, but that's the rounding of the system. So 93% of the people think they should be fired and or that they're doing a bad job. There are many, many inaccuracies. I do want to point out there's a WAC that says, RCW, that RCW 43.1858.010, animal control agencies and nonprofit humane societies receiving any animals on an emergency basis may provide emergency care when there is an unexpected serious occurrence or situation that urgently requires prompt action in order to prevent an animal's death or permanent injury. We're hoping that Vet O'Keefe will self-report herself to the Licensing Bureau, because that did not happen. As long as there's a lack of accountability, a lack of corrective actions, we will be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to the end of our open public forum, as we have spent our 15 minutes there. So with that, then, that will take us to our proclamation, and I will have Commissioner Kearns.
Madam Chair, I would like to read this proclamation in the form of a motion in the matter of proclaiming October 2023 Domestic Violence Action Month. Whereas Spokane County is a proud sponsor of Domestic Violence Action Month, as eliminating family violence was voted a priority for Spokane County stakeholders, and whereas Spokane County had 6,337 documented victims of reported domestic abuse in 2022, and approximately 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of domestic abuse, and whereas domestic violence is widespread and devastating to society as a whole because it is not confined to any group, but crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and social barriers. And whereas law enforcement fielded 12,699 calls related to domestic abuse in 2022, resulting in 3,223 perpetrators being prosecuted, which accounted for 31% of all criminal cases. And whereas domestic abuse is also a crime against children, with over 525 children documented as having been witnesses to or victims of domestic abuse-related crimes in 2022. And whereas victims should have access to support and programs that are knowledgeable, trauma-informed, and compassionate to their needs as victims. And whereas victims of violence should have access to medical and legal services, counseling, emergency and transitional housing, and other supportive services so that they can escape the cycle of abuse. And whereas our emergency responders, police, and judiciary should have the training and resources necessary to enforce, prosecute, protect, and rehabilitate perpetrators of domestic abuse in order to reduce the rate of more than 1 in 3 perpetrators reoffending. And whereas we believe we can bring an end to the high rate of family violence in the county of Spokane through education, awareness, and by taking a firm stance against domestic abuse in our community, and by raising awareness of the topic through the #EndTheSilence campaign. And whereas we believe that this effort must include law enforcement, criminal justice agencies, schools, churches, social welfare agencies, public health, and every individual citizen. And therefore, be it resolved, we, the Board of Commissioners for Spokane County, Washington, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Action Month throughout the County of Spokane, and encourage all citizens to participate in efforts to recognize the serious impact of domestic violence upon our communities and families, and to actively work towards eliminating domestic violence within our community and state. Dated the 10th day of October 2023, signed Board of County Commissioners, Spokane County, Washington.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We'll take our vote, and then we have a list of people to have come down. And I'm not sure who wants to speak, but I'm actually, I'll state it so that way everyone can come down, and then once we take the vote, we will let you say a few words, and then we'll take a picture. So from the clerk's office, we have Terry Bearden and Brad Verbeck. The prosecutor's office, we have Andy Duggan and Preston McCollum. We have Annie Murphy with the Spokane Regional Domestic Violence Coalition, retired Sergeant Ferguson, and Taffy Hunter. I think those are all the people that I have that are supposed to be here. So for this, all those in favor of the proclamation, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Commissioner French, did I get an aye from you?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. So if you'd like to come down, and Annie, I don't know if you want to speak for a minute, and then we will get our picture. Okay, very good. And so, and under Sheriff Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us today. As the Executive Director of the Spokane Regional Domestic Violence Coalition, we are deeply committed to this issue. Obviously, you heard the stats. The data tells a very compelling story about our county and about our state. All of these great people behind me have been committed to this issue for many, many years, and we continue to work to end the violence in our community. I would like to defer to Andy Duggan, DV Supervisor for the Prosecutor's Office, if she wants to speak.
Thank you for the proclamation, and I think it's important that as a community, we make the discussion of domestic violence more normal, more relatable, and that we're more cognizant that there are a lot of victims that we are unaware of because they don't report. And the more we make the public aware that when you're looking around at your coworkers, walking down the street, the odds are very good that you're seeing somebody who's experiencing violence within their home, and that we need to have conversations, meaningful conversations, because these are also homes that are raising children, and we know the detrimental impact domestic violence has on their upbringing, on their long-term goals. So I appreciate your efforts to bring the awareness to this, and so thank you.
Thank you. So we'll come down and we'll get you the proclamation and take a picture. Thank you all. And Commissioner French will have to Photoshop you in, so, because we know you're a supporter, so. Okay, so with that then, that's going to take us to the rest of our agenda, and I will let my fellow commissioners.
Madam
direct-
Chair, I move to approve items 3 and 4, including all sub-items on today's agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for items 3 and 4 and all sub-items on today's agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. So then that will take us to item number 5. 5A is a continuation from Tuesday, October 3rd at our 2 o'clock meeting for decision only. And this is in the matter of a resolution of intention to modify Section 3, Section 12, and Section 5, establishment of the Spokane Hotel and Motel TPA Commission of Spokane County Resolution Number 22-0602 regarding the ordinance establishing a tourism promotion area having boundaries including the city of Spokane and unincorporated areas of Spokane County. I don't know if Mr. Anderson wanted to speak to this.
Oh, where'd he go?
Mr. Anderson, did you want to speak to, you're just fine, speak to 5A on the continuation of that? So today is just for a decision only. We opened up the public hearing last week and closed the public hearing.
Correct.
And this is on the TPA, and you just had a couple items as to why it was continued.
Actually, I would ask Jim Amacio to address those. He dealt with that directly. It was continued to address a letter that was issued by the Department of Revenue regarding their interpretation of exemptions to the TPA, and Jim can detail that for the board.
Thank you, Chairman CUNY. For the board members, Jim Amacio, a Special Deputy Prosecutor speaking. Last week, I requested that the Board of County Commissioners close the public testimony on this item and continue it to today for a decision only with no additional testimony. The reason I did that is because the county received some correspondence from the Department of Revenue, as did 11 other counties in the state of Washington who have established tourist promotion areas. In the Department of Revenue's letters, they questioned some of the exemptions that the 11 counties and cities had in their their tourist promotion area ordinances. They, however, said they would continue to collect the fees set forth in those ordinances, but they asked in the next calendar year, that is to say 2024, that the counties work together to address with the legislature some of the issues they saw and or amend their ordinances. As a result of that correspondence, I reviewed the formation resolution for the county TPA, as well as the resolution requesting the additional $1 fee. And I have concluded, based upon that analysis, that regardless of the exemptions we have in the county's TPA ordinance, that the petition to form the present TPA, as well as the petition to request the additional $1 fees, substantially exceeded the 60% required to form and to impose the additional fee. So I'm here today to advise the Board of County Commissioners that we should move forward and take action on the ordinance which is in front of you this afternoon. Unless the board has any other questions, that's all I would like to say.
Okay, I have a question. In the motion, and as I just read in the item listed as 5A, when it says to modify section number 3, which is the rate, it has rate in brackets. Are we supposed to put a number in there, or is it?
No, I just put that in there, Commissioner CUNY, because that is what that section is entitled.
Okay,
And
thank
all
you.
the sections are in brackets. I apologize.
Nope.
That's a
Just-
little bit confusing.
Just clarifying. So we don't need to read the bracket?
Or
do you want us to read the bracket
I would
into the
recommend
official
that
record?
we read the brackets, just so it's clear.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Any further questions from members of the board? Seeing none, thank you very much.
thank you.
Madam Chair, after considering the written oral testimony submitted to the board in this matter, I hereby move to approve the resolution adopting ordinance amendments, which has the effect of modifying Section 3, which is the rate, Section 2, or Section 12, Section 12 regarding the effective date, Section number 5, establishing of the Spokane Hotel Motel TPA Commission within Spokane County, Resolution 22-0602, regarding the ordinance establishing tourism promotion area, having the boundaries including the city of Spokane and unincorporated areas of Spokane County.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Oh, just a second. Commissioner French, I'll let you go first, and then Commissioner Waldron.
That's right. I'm willing to let Ms. Waldron go first. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to thank those who came to the hearing last week and shared their thoughts. Over the past week, I've chatted with a few folks out in the community, and I've heard that many folks are excited about seeing this rate change, and also, adding more commissioners to the TPA board. And so I think that the idea here is really good, which is we want to promote all the good things that we have in Spokane, and we want more people to come here and enjoy our beautiful county and spend their money here and help us continue to make Spokane, a safer and more beautiful place. And so I just appreciate that the hotels and the business leaders and Visit Spokane are really thinking about how to position us well here in Spokane County, and I look forward to supporting this.
Commissioner French.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I also did want to report back that I heard concerns about, not only the position with regard to the TPA for Northern Quest, but some other issues. And I did inquire on those, not only with our council, but with others. And the Northern Quest is a sovereign nation, and so there is no inclusion of them in the assessment unless they voluntarily decide that they want to participate. But I did pursue that inquiry, and that was the conclusion that was given to me and stuff. So I just wanted to get back and close that part of the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay, that will then take us to item number 5B, which is in the matter of adopting the 2024 Newman Lake Flood Control Zone District budget for the Public Works Department. And I see we have Ben Bradabo, who's going to give a presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ben Bradabo, Water Programs Manager, here today to talk to you about the Newman Lake Flood Control Zone District annual budget for 2024. And this presentation is similar to what we presented at a briefing a few weeks ago when we set this as the public hearing date. And I'll just highlight a few of the items, the key items that we're working on with the district this year, we're working on, and then also into next year. And so I'm continuing. The big one is the top line, the working with using ARP funds for water quality improvement project with Jacobs Engineering at the district. And then continuing down the list, continuing operations, the district flood control work, water quality work. We have continued availability for capital grants funding from the state of Washington. And then continued operations, aquatic weed treatment, water quality monitoring, and then working with the state for dam safety issues on the lake. Next slide. As a top line summary is no increase in total assessment, and so our intent is to retain the assessment at the same amount for this year. We've seen some budget savings this year by taking some work in in-house and doing that work, and then also the ARP has covering some of the costs of work on district operations, and so there's the savings to the assessment. Some of the unknowns, again, as I talked about, is that the uncertainty on what Jacobs will recommend for the water quality improvement, and then how, whatever that continues on to, how those bids might come in for the construction in the lake. And so we'll see how those come in into next year. Next slide. This is a summary of the budget comparison of the last 2 years, where we're forecasted this year. We're forecasted to increase the fund balance this year on some of those savings, and then retain the assessments as the same as last year. Next slide. And then this is some of the feedback that we've received. So we presented to you on the 12th of September. We had a public hearing, or a public meeting, sorry, not a hearing, but a meeting to talk about operations of the district, and presented the budget to them, and didn't receive any comments at that time. And then we have our public hearing today. And that's the last slide, if there's any questions.
Are there any questions for Ben? I'm not seeing any.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a public hearing item. So I'll open up the public hearing, and I do have someone, Karen Stebbins, has put in to speak. So if you want to state your name and address and.
Thank you. Karen Stebbins, 212 East First Avenue, Post Falls, Idaho, and also Newman Lake parcel 56091.9013. I'm Karen Stebbins. I am the chair of the Newman Lake Flood Control Zone District Advisory Board. Haven't had the pleasure of speaking in front of the new commissioners, but just wanted to say that we had an advisory board meeting yesterday, and the budget that Ben has presented to the community and to the board has been unanimously approved by voting and non-voting members. Wanted to get that out of the way, but wanted to really thank Ben and Derek publicly for the work that they're doing at Newman Lake. The knowledge they have of our lake, the way they interface with the community, the board members is phenomenal, and we're looking forward to the ARP project that they're working on. And also I'd like to say thank you to commissioners for the ARP funding for the water quality project. It's just going to make a huge difference to Newman Lake. I mean, it's a legacy project. What we've heard through Jacobs Engineering and what they're going to be able to do for the water quality at Newman Lake is amazing. We should not have toxic algae blooms, which would happen in the middle of summer, the end of summer. So all recreation should be able to be fully functional without that. And we might even be able to bring cold water fishing back to Newman Lake. Right now it's just warm water fishing, and the engineers seem fairly confident in that. So I'm really excited and thankful for what you guys have done, because it's amazing. And Newman Lake is a jewel of Spokane County. It is used so much because it's so close to the population. And I just know, I just wanted to say, I mean, it's not only enjoyed by the 770 assessment payers. I know you hear that number all the time, but we had Fish and Wildlife do a traffic count on our public launch. Over 56,000 people come to Newman Lake. So your ARP water quality project is not only impacting the 770 assessment payers, you're also impacting Spokane County residents who also enjoy this lake. So thank you very much. Like I said, it's a legacy project. Let me see, what else did I want to say? But just want to say the advisory board is in great shape. We have great volunteers that are working on it. We have 3 applications already, and we haven't even advertised for openings yet. It's amazing what $2 million and a lot of good news does for a board. I know in the past, new commissioners, you have no idea, but the other former commissioners have heard all sorts of testimony here. This is my 7th year. I'm rotating off the board, and you've heard everything from people yelling at you to me. I try to be pretty nice, but I would say we're known as being crazy out at Newman Lake, but I'd also say we're known as being passionate about our assessments and how they're used and how our lake is taken care of. And right now I really feel it's in a really good place with Ben and Derek and the new project that is coming on board. And so would like to say thank you and thanks for your time. And then Josh and Ron, you guys have been great. I mean, you know way too much about Newman Lake than you ever wanted to know, but I appreciate working with you guys and doing everything that we've done. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I think we can all say thank you, Karen, for all the work that you do as well, because you have been a trooper since I've been commissioner. I think I've known you this entire time, and you've been a great advocate for Newman Lake. So is there anyone else that would like to testify? Is there anyone online? Okay, third and final call for anyone else wishing to testify on 5B. Seeing no one, I will close the open public testimony. We'll see if there are any other comments from my commissioners.
I'll save my remarks till after I make the motion.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve public hearing item number 5B in the matter of adopting the 2024 Newman Lake Flood Control Zone District budget for the Public Works Department.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I want to echo some of the comments that Commissioner CUNY stated, and really, thank you, Karen, for your years of service. Thank you to all the residents out at Newman Lake who have worked with our staff over the years. We do this every year. Some years have been smoother than others, but that's fantastic when we see a unanimous vote out of the AB board. And I think that's also a testament to the hard work of our Spokane County staff. And so just everybody who has had a finger in this budget and helping get it drafted, we thank you for your time and commitment.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so then Mr. Simmons and Mr. Anderson, do we have any additional miscellaneous items or executive sessions?
If it would be okay with the chair and the commissioners, I've got a couple of comments I'd like to make in regards to some of the testimony that was provided earlier, specifically to Director Jesse Ferrari's qualifications. Just to be helpful to set the record straight, there is no requirement of any of our employees to have Washington State residency. That was changed by the commissioners back in 2021. If it existed on any job specs, it has been subsequently corrected on all of our job specs, missing maybe a couple that are still hanging out there. So I want to repeat, no residency requirements in Washington State for any county employees. It says the possession of a valid driver's license. One of the great things that we've partnered with the armed forces is having access to a skill bridge program, and it's brought us a lot of great veterans who are transitioning out of military, looking for work in the civilian side of the equation. And skill bridge actually pays for the individual who comes to work for the county for a period of time. Jesse Ferrari was one of those that we were fortunate enough to get through the skill bridge program. He started under that program in October of 22. In January of 23, Jesse took and passed his integrity interview, which is the requirements for receiving his limited commissioning. Also completed the background check at the time, January of 2023. So that has actually been completed and is, again, incorrect information that's been testified on. That commissioning process is then handled by the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. They have a lot of other things going on, and they were able to provide him his limited commissioning on May 17th of 2023. So well within this, and he was actually hired on January 30th of 2023, so all within the 6 months. So again, just trying to make sure we're correcting the record here. So those are just some important things to highlight on Jesse. I think the most important ones, as we hire into roles in the county, into important positions like this, experience, leadership, there's a lot of skills that go into it, business acumen, financial wherewithal, budgeting knowledge, the ability to bring in process improvements. So those are all some of a handful of the characteristics that Jesse brought in. So I just wanted to make sure I stated that because it's been said a couple times, casting doubt on some of these facts, and those are the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, and I guess I would my recollection is that it was like maybe February of 2021 that we did remove that qualification on our staff.
Yep, that was my recollection.
So, so that, as it was just the three of us commissioners at that point in time, but that was the time frame that I know that to have happened. So, okay, Mr. Anderson, I think you
Yes.
have a couple executive sessions.
I believe we have a total of 3 executive sessions this afternoon. I have 2 that are related to pending and potential litigation pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I. Both of those will involve the board, myself, CEO Scott Simmons, Kyle Tuig, Matt Zarakor, and Matt Koza from my office. Each of those items will be approximately 15 minutes each, and no action to be taken.
Okay, so that's 2 for pending potential, okay.
Correct.
And then you said a third one?
Yes, in addition, I believe there's going to be an executive session in regards to labor negotiations and, apologies. Oh, there we go. Sorry, that's pursuant to RCW 4230-140 sub 4. That will involve the board, myself, Scott Simmons, Ashley Cameron, and Josh Grote from HR.
And any decisions?
I don't believe so, and
Commissioner French, I see you raised your hand.
Oh, all I wanted to do is put on the record that you have my permission to use my stamp for all the items that we took action on today.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. Okay, so then how long on the labor negotiations item? I'm sorry if I didn't write that down.
20 minutes and no action.
Yep.
Again, sorry.
Okay, and so for all 3 of those, we don't anticipate any action,
Correct.
and we will be in for 50 minutes is what I have then. Anticipating no action, then at the end of our executive session, we will conclude the meeting, and we will be back for our 5:30 meeting. It is now 2:53. So I would think at 2:55, we'll start our executive session, which will give us just a couple of minutes to get the transition over. So we'll start executive session at 2:55, and we will go for 15 minutes, and then we'll adjourn at that point in time. Thank you very much, and we'll see you back at 5:30 for people that are coming back to the 5:30.